thank both the hard dedication of people like Ryan and Chandler and the people from Infinite Campus for their very hard work in making that happen. Remember when I stood up here and said, I'm not here to say what vendor is who. I want them all to be successful? Guess what? They are. And that makes me happy. I'm just here to help get it done. And so as we move through the big Infinite Campus systems, and I think they're up to 5 out of 13 in less than 2 weeks. Unbelievable. So as we move through the rest of yours, Power School, unbelievable. They're almost done. I think they're down to 5. I might be off by a few. But that's stuff that people are doing. And it's a lot of hard work on your behalf. Remember, I don't have a contract with your vendors. You do. So, you know, by Chandler working with their vendor, they got it, and they helped a whole lot of districts. And they worked as a consortium. I don't know what happened behind the scene, Ryan, but whatever happened. That's all I'm saying here. But I thank them. They've worked very hard. Okay, that's the chart that sort of tells you where we're at. EduPoint is sitting at about 47%. So we got some work to do there. The Schoolmaster is sitting at 83%. When you look at numbers, okay, you got to be proud of Schoolmaster. And if I look at these small vendors, they're awesome too. Because how come these small vendors knocked it out? Well, maybe it was easier for them. I don't know. But I am proud to say that this state has a lot of great vendors, and there's been a lot of hard work between you and them. So when you're stressing, remember your vendor's stressing, we're stressing, everybody's with you. But the bottom line, who's got the balance book? Who's got the deposit book? You do. And we're going to make sure that you're whole. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. Yes, Bob?
Can you just clarify what percentage we're talking about? Is it percentage of
It's LEAs, not students.
districts?
Districts. LEAs. Remember I had charged.
Right. Got it. Not individuals.
No, but I have those numbers too. But to me, it's a district transition, and I get that if I were looking at my student count numbers, I'm over 50.
Explain that, please.
Huh?
Okay, I'm not understanding. So let's say 100% of that first row is implemented.
Okay, this row is a
No.
bad calculation. We took it off before it's not on this screen.
Okay, so my question
I caught this 2 days ago.
So my question is, if they're 100% implemented, does that mean that the student count in AZS matches?
I'd have to talk, and it's not fair for me to answer that. I can't answer. That would have to be between me and that district, and then we align. And it's part of this conversation. So let me get through this and then save some of those I'll get to you. This is AZ's metrics by vendor. These are just, you know, I'm not here to point out anybody's deficiencies or anything because everybody's working hard. This is frequency of submission to AZs, and the peaks that we have. And here's, okay, so until July, I'm not going to harp on this, but I'm going to start harping on it. And I'm harping to both vendors and you. I imagine that, and if I go to this next slide, what I'm seeing is a lot of people submitting all every day. Why? Your bandwidth costs are going to go up. Because, you know, I pay for mine, I know what mine's cost. But when you go out, it's bandwidth. And data cost is going up if you're submitting every record every day. Now until you feel comfortable in July or August, do what you do. You shouldn't be doing that. After we get through this year, into next year's transition, when you register a student for FY18, it will transmit if you did it in January of 17, 6, 7. It will transmit. It will be there. It's not like SACE where you roll over those years. We'll have your data. That will help save you. But don't hit the send button if you don't have to. Those that need to, I just spin up more CPUs and I'll handle it. Except I worry about your cost of bandwidth because this is huge. Look at the quantity of transaction counts on those days. Look at the peaks that we're getting. And this is, the response time is what I'm working to control. Remember we had an outage about, and I'll get to your question. I had an outage, I told you a couple weeks ago, I can't remember, it seems they all fall together now, right? I had to add a whole nother, I cloned AZs in the sky. In order for it, because it was, you guys were, I'm not trying to be too technical, but when you asked for a record, it locked the record, which caused timeouts. And I didn't know that until you guys did it. Then we called it, separated it, and now you don't have those timeouts. But it doesn't mean I don't have new issues every day. Because every day you find new ways to tell me something that I didn't know. And it will be that way forever. You're going to find something. I don't think any system is 100%, but we're trying. This is counts of our transactions received. I have screens sitting in my NOC, Network Operations Center. We watch this. I have people standing by to make sure that all this is flowing well. We have meetings if it doesn't flow well. We discuss what's happening, what causes it, what's that database doing. We're talking a very complex architecture that you've got. This is a 5 billion transaction system. I'm not talking dollars, just transactions. That's how many you're going to do this year. 5 billion at the rate we're going. If you cut it in half by not doing it every day, that'd help. But 5 billion. Let's say I charged $1 per transaction. The state would have $5 billion. Hell, I'd be rich. I'd be sitting in a yacht. I can't wait till I have that discussion though, because the state keeps saying to me that you can support this with nothing. I built you an enterprise system. It takes money to, it's 7.5 or $8 billion you guys come through our system. Something like that. You can't support that kind of system with zero. So, let's get through this year and we'll figure it out. We made an adjustment. I don't have my head in the sand. I'm not digging for a bone. But we are looking underneath the covers to find out what frustrates you. But sometimes it comes in as so much noise, it's hard to prioritize what's really 80% of the issue. Because if you whack the 1%er, I still have 99% of people pissed. So I don't know how to fix that, but I've got to figure out how to narrow the noise so I can focus on what's really important and fix that. And I'm just going to stuss a few of those today. But I want to talk more, before I get into the bashing of, where you throw stones and rocks at me. We check those at the door too, right? Anybody they checked your bags, I hope. Integrity runs and ACE runs daily. Let me tell you what integrity runs daily now. Full state recap every day. And it runs in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Ran last night, right? Thank you. This is a big deal. ACE runs every day. Every day, right after integrity. Sometime, either by this Friday or by early next week, everyone will have access to ADM reports. We'll open it up. And that's every day. Save these questions. Oh, ACE? Aggregation. Aggregation calculation engine. That's what generates ADM. Every day you'll know your ADM. Okay. That's huge. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Let me tell you what SACE does. 10 days. 10 days. 100 reboots. People working all night looking at the screen because they have to reset it because the memory leaks that are in SACE just zap all the memory and it just stops. And that's what it's doing. It's all memory leaks and I can't fix it. And I called Microsoft, they said, replace your system. We told you that 4 years ago. Okay? I'll let you soak this in for a second. Now that slide, end of month integrity, is 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's statewide recount. On ADM, this is ACE. This is the critical one that the legislature told me to do. Auditability. We now have an auditability. Where is the checkbook? You own it in your SIS. We just have your transactions. So we know every transaction you've done, but if you're submitting millions of transactions, looking at a transaction log that is millions long is insanity. Look at integrity. I get the early people use transaction logs as we did AZs because they had to figure it out if they made it. Just look at integrity. Did it fail? And there's going to be things that, I mean, the reason ACE and ADM integrity didn't run a couple days ago, like it's supposed to, and I watch this every day, it's 1 a.m., is there a duplicate ID came in. And we had to fix a rule in order to fail both. Because who has to fix duplicate IDs? You do. Do I know where those kids are? I don't. So there's changes coming. Because you guys got to fix that. Yeah, we can do merges, and that's what we do. But we can't do that. You know, I can't just arbitrarily say that this guy and this guy is that guy. Or she and it's him. You know, whatever the situation is. But duplicate IDs is a big deal. Okay, so I'm not going to read this to you. It's in your slide time. But the problems we found with AZs to SAs, that's everybody's frustration. Minus current year funding. Take that off the table because I told you I can't do anything about it. AZs to SAs has been everybody's problem. And different communications from different people. But this is, you know, we've looked at this. How do we, you know, it's like, you know how it feels like, I know what a dog chasing a bus feels like now. Because every day, and this is really important for you to remember, this one point. Do students change every day in your LEAs? Every day. The bigger ones, Sunnyside and Tucson. The number of changes is huge there. And when you look at a report, it's a point in time, right? Especially in SACE. I have no idea how you chase that bus in SACE, because it was, you know, 5 days before you saw it. The student could have left 10 times and re-enrolled 10 times. So, understand it's point in time. When you look at something, unless you look at it, and what I've done for you is move point in time closer with integrity and ADM. Is it going to be perfect? No. Things move. Just remember that the bus keeps moving. So, we did version AZs to SACE version 1. And we worked hard on it, spent a lot of money on it. Norm and I've talked about it. You know, about why did you spend so much time on that? Because this is the thing that's killing me. The noise that's killing school finance is my SACE does not match my SIS. I know that. Some of you have 100%, blows my mind, in the same vendor. And some of you have less than, you know, 20%. But its average is 95%. But if you're the 20%, you're really pissed. If you're 95%, you're still pissed. It's not 100%. Where is the system of record? Your SIS. And I'm going to keep doing that today because that's what I want you to go back with to your business officers and explain to them that this is how we're going to make sure you're square. This is how you're square. So LEAs who've migrated rely on AZs to get data into SACE. Yes. But I'm going to talk about something else in a minute that we're working on part 2. Part 1. Part 2. Depending on your language. We're doing 2. Me saying I'm reaching 93% accuracy, I'm not getting any cheers, okay? So I'm not sitting there saying that's a good thing. You want 100%. This is back to your checkbook, doesn't match the bank, and you're pissed. I got it. I understand. This is where we're going to talk about SACE 2.0 processes. It's in the middle of being developed. I have people here that are very busy at it, and how many transactions did you use to submit to SACE? 17 of them. We started with the first one, was called attendance. And that's the first one we're doing. And how we're doing it is and if we didn't do part one, we couldn't have done part two. Because we had to learn about what was wrong with part one that we needed with part two. Now, will part two be 100% perfect? I will never stand in front of you and say that I'm 100% perfect, because I'll walk outside and get hit by lightning. But we, the key thing that scares me about 95 or 96%, we do have an option. SACE Online. For those districts that, oh, gotta have it. But then you still feed it from AZEDs, and that corrupts it. So I understand all that. And we have ways to fix that too. But when I sit here and think of SACE Online and I look how hard it is for you to do that, and you had 300 to do, I'd rather you have one or two. And that's my objective. And by the end of May, I'm rolling the film before I get to it, this will be fully done. So your May integrity, or this run in June, will be with all this data in SACE. And then we have that whole month to figure out what's not in there. And I'll keep explaining this, but we're going to try to get as much of the data that's in AZ into SACE. So what does that tell you? I'm going to give you a quick rule. 3 steps. AZs, if you're on AZs, make sure your SIS, which is the bank book, matches AZs. Make sure that. Do not, you can look at your SIS and say that it's off, we know. And if it's only 2 or 3 off, and you want to have a discussion with school finance about using SACE Online, and then we turn off AZs to SACE for that district, we can do that now. We have the option to turn off AZs to SACE. We did it for Chandler. That was our first, we had to rebuild that. Because every time you had an option, I had to change it. So I turned off AZs to SACE for that. But if you're missing the hundreds, let's see if this works. For those, and I'm not asking you to raise your hand, that are in sudden growth, right? You've got big growth. And you're feeling like, I need that ADM. We'll be working with you. We're going to make sure you get it. So that should not be your worry. And I know that there's still current year funding is killing everything. But if you manage your budget by looking at your SIS, and you know how many students you have, base your budget on your SIS. That's the check. That's your students. If they're not right in there, they're not going to be right in my system. And that's just your only. This is trying to get us through this year. Because next year we only have one system. And if I didn't emphasize that enough, let me do that now. So July 1st, if you're not on AZs, we're going to pay you off average 100 ADM for July and August of this year's 16. If you're not on by September 1st, there won't be a check. That's been directed from the top. That's not something I made up.
Will you just repeat that one more time? The last 2 sentences.
Well, we've been saying that for a long time.
I know. If we're not on AZs by.
If you're not on AZs by September 1st, we're going to have to be working close.
Right, but what?
Because our last thing, I'm going to have to.
You said July 1st.
July 1st is the date that. But we're going to make you whole. If you're on AZs July 1st, you'll get a check because. I'm sorry. Did I turn it off? Current year funding requires what? The starts. And I don't know all the implications of current year funding. But I think for everybody, current year funding, we're going to, and school finance is not here, so they have to clarify that, is that July and August is going to be averaged ADM of this year until we get everything balanced.
From our day of this year?
Yes, this year. Which is the same way it would have been anyway on non-current year funding. So that may extend, depending on how current your funding looks. I don't know. If current funding, your funding gets defeated, then disregard everything I just said. However, don't disregard that AZ has to be running in your district. How school finance pays you may be different. AZ has to be running. We have all the vendors done. Now it's up to you and your vendor. For a district like Mesa, I have opened up the UAT for them. I did it for Chandler. I've not heard anything back yet. UAT, it's a unit acceptance testing, which is where they can actually play with the data.
Mark, what date are you going to have on July 1 for us? That's when it opens up for the new fiscal year for us to upload. What date are you going to have on July 1?
Whatever data you submit.
But you can't submit an entire district on one day based on...
That's why you're going to get paid off of ADM 100 day of this year, 16 for the first 2 months.
You just said that we have to have data there on July 1.
You have to be on AZs.
Okay, just... Oh.
Transition. Because you have to enroll students, and because SACE was the way it was, we roll over every year. Remember when I got here, or maybe you don't remember. I did. I got here in January and you still hadn't rolled over years. It was still the prior year when I got here in January. So at least it rolled over July 15th or so when we rolled over years, and we allowed SACE to work. But I'm still stuck with SACE. I still have to roll over SACE. Because all our reporting comes still, I mean, everybody internally still uses SD, which is part of SACE, and it will be used until I can move all the reporting to our operational data stores. Way too much information in here, but there's a lot of work to do behind the scenes that I still have to do. My focus was on you guys, giving you stuff. So July 1st, got to be on AZs. If you're not, you're still getting paid. September 1st is when we're going to have to talk. Will I say they won't give you a check? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But that's what they told me. But, you know, how long will they let you go without it? When all the vendors are working? That's going to be a tough question. We hope to have this in production by the end of May. That's my goal. Attendance, Sherry, is next week? Huh?
This week.
So attendance, will be our first transaction that we're going to get. So if you wanted to check how we're doing, attendance will be the first transaction that we square up because it's so big. It's where most of we're trying to tackle them by the biggest, you know, the ones that are affected. And we'll miss some of yours, but we'll get them all by May. And then when you run, we hope to decrease it to less than 1% or 3%. You know, it's like, so SACE Online is an option in order for you to be square for the year. Then we can say SACE is done. Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean when we started submitting to ACS, are we automatically still able to do SACE Online, or do we have to request that?
You have to request that from school finance. But the challenge we've seen with people that are on AZs going to SACE Online is that the AZs will then override. So we had to figure out a different way. And that's why I know that's a lot of people's worry right now is SACE. I'm hoping that this helps you stop worrying. Because even if you're not accurate, are we going to not pay you? No. If you bring your spreadsheet, we will pay you.
Wow.
Because we're not going to not pay you. That is what my boss has said. But you better realize that your system is the auditable system, not ours. So we will fix that. Any questions on this?
Can you clarify a statement you made a while ago, and maybe this is a vendor question too, but you said that going forward, in other words, as soon as we roll, or as soon as we create our new year in our SIS, that you're already collecting next year's fiscal year's data?
For FY18, not FY17. Because I had to roll over SACE this year. So this year we are starting on July 1st, as you would normally have done with SACE. But as we get closer to FY18 and you register students like in the spring or January, whenever you start open enrollment, those will start flowing. Our database is multi-year. A whole different world than it used to be.
Mark, when are we required to send you first transactions for the new school year?
You're required by law 20 days.
But after the start of school?
20 days from the time the school starts.
So we don't have to send AZED's transactions for next year until after 20 days into the school?
By law you do, but let me take you back off the law. I just
Okay.
answered the law question.
Okay.
Let your system work. Let your system work. It will submit every day. If everybody does what 20 days, you're gonna forget what happened, you can't fix it. It's the same thing as SACE. You want instant results so you can fix things, so that it's not 10 days. What the hell happened? Where was that kid? Please, let the systems work. But that's still, I know the law says what it says. But let me tell you some of the intricacies of that law. It says 20 days. So what do some districts do? One school, one student to meet the 20 days. I can tell you that's happened. Not the district. Okay, so that was not the intent. No, because I'm now providing reports that say who's not submitting. So that they'll know. They never did before, until the end of the year when we said, well, where the hell is their data? Because you got paid off last year's data, it didn't matter, right? So you guys, I know, are telling me to fix my stuff. But there's something you guys have to do too, and that's fix your business process. You've been tied to the business process of what's called SACE. You now have to change your business process to what's called AZEDS. I understand how hard this is to transition. I am working with 700 people in the Department of Education that feel just like you. Why are you doing this? It's too hard. You're changing. You move from year to year, that's hard. I ask you, I know it's hard. The hardest thing for any human to do is change. We have to go through the 4 stages of grief. We ain't even reached acceptance yet. So please, let's get to the acceptance so we can get to the, moving through it.
So July 1st, our data from this year will still be up there.
Yes?
We won't have to mass upload, we'll just be sending out the withdrawals.
The 17th.
The new enrollments.
I'm gonna have to now, let me ask my team that. Let's get that question documented. Let me verify that. That's a really good question. I want that one documented. Because I want that to come back to everybody. That's a good question, thank you.
Should we repeat it?
Do you want to repeat your question?
Basically, will our data,
Repeat it.
Will our data be up there where we don't have to mass upload? All we will be sending up is our withdrawals and our new enrollments.
Let me, that'd be awesome. I want that.
That was already on the list.
Okay, but I've got an answer, but let me verify, let me take your question. So your FY16 student data will already be there. So all they have to do, the question is, well, all we have to do is upload withdrawals, new enrollments, so forth and so on. Is that what she's asked? Let's make sure I answer the question by what the screen says.
Isn't that a vendor? You said you're not willing to know.
Well, that's you and our vendors, and also my system capability. I want to make sure that we've set it up to answer that. And I think the answer is yes, but I don't know, so I need to validate. And I don't want anybody in here. That's why I want to take these questions and make sure they're right. Because some of these might have to be with school finance, some of them might have to be with a vendor. I got to ask. That's a good question. Thank you. So these are the 17 SACE transactions. I didn't know if you care, but there they are. You know what they are. You do this every day. those that are on SACE. Those that have been on ACE, it's forgotten now, because they've been managing SACE. Okay, if you really want me to go through this, I can. But I try to do this in English. But this is the complexity of what we had to do. All right, so basically what we're doing is comparing LEA data between the two, only doing the changes that don't match, send them up and load them right into the right data file. All right, so let us run through this and get it tested, making sure it's running, but this is SACE version, AZ is SACE version 2, because I don't want you to be on SACE Online for the rest of your